What's up, BB Besties? I have a live feed update today.
Hey, BB friends, here's a quick update.
Welcome to the Girl Gab podcast. Join your hosts, Allie and Nikki, as they break down the latest in pop culture, TV, and whatever else they feel like gabbing about. Girl Gab starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Girl Gab. I am your co-host, Nikki, joined with my co-host, Allie. Allie, how are you doing tonight?
Couldn't be better.
Fabulous. I have a question for you.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
I want to know if this is just a Midwest thing or if this is something that everyone does. Do you dip French fries in ice cream?
Absolutely, I do. And aren't I in the
perfect.
Midwest? Didn't we discuss this once?
Valid point. Yes, valid point. So this actually
specifically
doesn't really
Chick-fil-A
answer my question.
waffle fries in Chick-fil-A ice cream.
Yeah, no, I don't have a Chick-fil-A around me, so mine is Wendy's into a Frosty.
Okay, valid.
Tonight was Dairy Queen fries into a chocolate sundae.
I'm not a sweets person, but I am a savory person, and I feel like that's a good balance.
Exactly.
I also love like chocolate covered pretzels because it's like a good balance, you know?
Oh, flips are my favorite
Flips,
gas station
yes.
snack.
The white chocolate.
Yes! I'm so dead.
Why are we the same
Yes.
person?
Literally.
Ugh.
Flips are my absolute favorite, and that's my favorite thing to make at Christmas time is white chocolate covered pretzels, which they're not hard to make, but I feel like I'm doing something
You gotta put
extra.
a little, at Christmas time, you gotta put a peppermint bark into
Candy cane.
it. Yeah.
Oh my god. So this is why we have a podcast together, everyone.
This is exactly why. Okay, I have a question for you now.
Okay.
I think that you're into the whole Topanga tea right now. Girl meets world, boy meets world, et cetera, et cetera. I minimally have been able to keep up with this. I've had a really hard time just getting... It's not that I've had a hard time. I've just had a low motivation. So I would like you, if you know a lot about it, to please explain to me the full tea that's going down. From what I understand, Topanga invited redheaded girl from Boy Meets World the last couple of seasons, the girl that was like with Sean's brother for a short period of time, onto the Boy Meets podcast. And I heard a couple of clips where Topanga was like, why do you hate us? Or she was like, why do you hate us? And Topanga's like, I think you hate us. Like, that's my knowledge. And I know that she's a porn star. So did figure that
correct. Also correct.
And she's upset. I did also see that she's upset because she's like the only one that wasn't invited onto Girl Meets World. But then I also saw some other creators being like, but you were a porn star. And then I saw some other interviews where she was like, well, I wasn't a porn star when Girl Meets World. I'm like, but Disney don't want nothing to do with a former porn star. So I don't know. Give me your rendition, please.
So I was big into Boy Meets World, obviously, whenever I was younger. But like to be honest, did not come back to the whole Girl Meets World situation.
Same.
Yeah. Anyways, then when they launched the Pod Meets World podcast, I was like, okay, I'll tune in because I was a Boy Meets World girly. But I don't know. I have found that like the TV shows that I loved growing up, starting podcasts talking about it isn't necessarily for me. It's just not content that I enjoy to partake in, I guess. So I quit listening. But then when all the tea was coming out this week, I was like, let me take a listen. So essentially, there's been apparently a lot of discussions about how the Girl Meets World set was just not a fun time. And I think a lot of that has to do with actually the relationship. And don't quote me on this part at least, but I think a lot of the reason that the Girl Meets World set was a toxic environment is because of Danielle and Ben not having a good relationship anymore.
Danielle and who?
Ben, the guy that plays Corey, Ben Savage.
Oh, I forgot that he was even on because he doesn't have anything to do with him now. So
right. Well, I think that all was
is that what caused?
starting.
Is that what caused him to not want anything to do with Will Fidel? Because Will Fidel took this really hard.
No, it's a lot to do with like politics and stuff. That like he's very deep on the red side. Ben is, and the rest are not.
So that's that big of an issue that you can't speak. You can't even respond to your friend and be like, this is why I'm cutting you off. Because according to Will, his wife had to be like, can you stop reaching out to Ben Savage? Because obviously he doesn't want you in his life.
Yeah, and this is complete speculation on my part, but I think there's like, it's giving cultish vibes. that like he's in some kind of like religious not Scientology specifically, but like something along those lines kind of situation, because he doesn't talk to anyone. He's not in the public eye anymore. He is completely cut off any and everything. He is very secluded these days. And
it's true, because him and his brother were still doing, even after his brother's scandals, they were still doing they're still working as like producers and stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so I think that some of that stuff was starting during Girl Meets World, which made the set a very toxic environment. Danielle has talked, even in this episode, about how Boy Meets World she can look back on very fondly and had a lot of good memories. In Girl Meets World, it was very hard for her to continue to work in that environment, and she was constantly just focused on, let me get my job done and get the hell out of here, essentially.
Did she say specifically what was toxic? Because I've heard her talk about the set being toxic and others talk about it, but I've never really been able to piece together what, other than what you're saying about maybe Ben Savage. But
I think there's also, I don't think it was only Ben. I think there's also some kind of writer or producer that had something to do with it as well. They based on this conversation they have with Maitland, they have at some point during the podcast talked about it, but like I said, I haven't listened to every episode.
Well, I also saw a clip from not Sabrina Carpenter, but the brown-haired girl that was on the show, and apparently she was also on another show. I forget what it was. She's on some other major show as well, and so no one knows which show she's talking about, because she says on a set that I was on, but she doesn't say which one. And she talks about witnessing an adult do something inappropriate with a minor, and she said that she didn't want to be involved in she said, I'm uncomfortable being around that. I never want to see it again, but can you please like leave my name out of this, because I know how this goes for me. And it wasn't received the way she had hoped it was. She hoped that they would keep her anonymous, and they didn't, because she said like the next day it was like, you're trying to ruin this person's career. So there's speculation after the Maitland thing. I've been now seeing that clip resurfacing, and people being like, what if it was Girl Meets World? What if they were talking about Ben Savage? Because there's a lot of speculations with his brother. So
I feel kind of like Danielle, Will, and Ryder would call that out if he had done something like that. I don't think they would constantly be trying to be in contact with him again if he had done something like that. I think if something like that did happen on the Boy Meets World, I think that's where this writer producer kind of situation comes in, because that, to me, the vibes I was getting was more like a sexual harassment kind of issue with that person. I do think that the whole Ben thing is more so like political driven kind of situation. There was also an episode where Trina, who is the girl that played
Monica
Angela in the show.
Oh, Angela, sorry.
Angela in
Monica.
the show. Where she has in the past stated that there was a lot of like microaggressions and racial biases and different things like that on the set of Boy Meets World. I think she specifically called Danielle out as maybe being a part of that.
I saw something about this, that Danielle apologized. Yes. Danielle admitted to maybe at the time not realizing, but now as an adult realizing. So she's one of the ones that actually apologized, apparently.
Yes.
And apparently they're cool now over it after she.
Correct.
But Maitland, I guess, didn't. Didn't apologize?
No. I'm just saying, like, because I've been seeing a lot of people like that think Danielle is in the wrong kind of use Trina previously calling her out as like a way to be like, oh, she's been a mean girl all this time or whatever. And it's like, I think that the Trina and Danielle situation is completely different and separate, but also on top of that, Trina has shown support for Danielle.
I was gonna say, I've seen at least 2 TikToks where Trina is doing other shit around her house to the audio of the argument.
Yeah. So like I fully believe that like Danielle and Trina have like made amends with each other and whatnot.
Buried the hatchet.
Yeah. So what happened with Danielle and Maitland is Maitland has like a couple years ago got stopped by TMZ on the street and was asked some questions, and I don't even know, I haven't seen the interview, so I don't know exactly what she said, but like it wasn't great things apparently about those that are starting the podcast, even though she at the time had already agreed to like come on the podcast or whatever.
Oh, so this happened before the podcast was ever even
Correct.
official.
Correct.
And they were asking her about the podcast, I presume?
Yeah, about the 3 people, because like the podcast every episode is Danielle, is Topanga, Sean, and Eric.
And they're like watching an episode before they film, and then they talk about the episode and the behind the scenes shit, right? Okay.
And so apparently when the podcast was announced, before they did like the actual full public announcement, they reached out to several people on the cast and was like, hey, would you be willing to come on this podcast as a guest with us? And if you say yes, they were also following up and saying, thanks, can we include your name in the article that's going to come out with the announcement to say, like, these are some of the people that we already know are going to be guests on, right? Maitland was part of that list of people that they included.
So everyone's been anxiously awaiting.
Right. And this was like a couple years ago that the podcast started. But the way they're doing it is they invite people on as they're seen on the show.
Oh, and she's like, so they're so is the pod almost over? Because they're like, if she's on there, they're almost to the end of this.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to go into the Girl Meets World part or not, but the Boy Meets World part at least
must be close to being over. Yeah, because she didn't come on until like literally
last 2 seasons.
Yeah, she was like a nobody on the show, truly. I mean, she's notable because I love the show, but in comparison to like Sean and Topanga. Nothing.
Right, exactly.
Nothing burger, you know?
So basically, like, that article comes out, and I don't know if the TMZ interview is before or after the actual article announcement or what, but she says some things that, like, aren't great about the 3 hosts or whatever. I don't know what it was. But at that time, after she says whatever she says, I think it was mainly about Danielle, like more so about targeted towards Danielle. Danielle asked Will to reach out to Maitland and see if he can give Danielle Maitland's phone number so that they can talk to each other and like resolve whatever issues they have. This was a couple years ago when the article came out. Maitland's response to that was, no, let's save it for the pod. It'll be great for ratings.
But wait, where does the Facebook message come into this? Because I heard there was some kind of Facebook message where she apologized.
Okay, that's where that was mentioned in the TMZ interview, whatever. That like she had messaged Topanga Danielle on Facebook, and Danielle never responded. Well, Danielle said, and Will also confirmed on the episode that like she sent screenshots, he can confirm, like he saw it himself as well, that Maitland's message ended up in like the other like inbox that you don't get a notification about. Like she did not know.
Because she doesn't use Facebook or something very often, I think she said.
Right. And they weren't Facebook friends.
So it went into like the request category or whatever.
Correct. So until Maitland did this interview talking about it,
she had no idea.
Danielle didn't know the message existed. And so again, that was going to be part of like the conversation she wanted to have with Maitland when she asked Will to get the phone number and yada, yada, yada. Maitland turned that down and said she just wanted to discuss it on the podcast.
So Topanga's been over here like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. She's ready to hop into it on the pod. Like, let's hash it out. That's what Maitland wanted. But then from what I was hearing, when Topanga did that, Maitland was like, what are you doing? Like, I just thought we were going to talk about fun times. Like, that's what I heard was what happened.
Which I will say in Maitland's defense, like, even as a listener, it was kind of jarring because the episode is like an hour and a half long. And honestly, the more I was listening to it, the more I was like, did they like edit this part out now that like there's no argument? Because it was like towards the very end, and I'm telling you, it goes from them reminiscing on good times to all of a sudden Topanga's coming in hard, like out of nowhere, being like, so let's talk about it. Why do you hate us? And I mean, for an hour, they had been just like talking and laughing and whatever. So it was kind of like abrupt. However, you knew it was going to come up because you agreed to it, even if it was a couple of years ago. Because Maitland's whole defense on all of this is, at the time, I thought that I was going to be on the podcast within like a couple of weeks of you contacting me. And
she
Will
didn't
was like,
know the format of the show, I guess.
Yeah. And Will, that was one thing that Will commented on and said, you know, maybe that was bad on my part that I didn't explain it well enough to where you would know that like you're going to be further down the line. But I guess there's also been a couple times like throughout these last couple years that Maitland still kind of like pops up on a TMZ article every now and then and is like shit talking them, says that like their podcast is nothing but negative, all this different kind of stuff or whatever.
Negative.
Yeah, because they talk about like the situation with like the writers and like whatever, like the shady shit that goes on. And apparently like Maitland likes those people. So, you know, whatever.
I also heard that she is upset with them because after the show, this goes like even long before the TMZ, I think, because I heard that after the wrapping of Boy Meets World, everybody still stayed remotely in contact except Maitland. Nobody kept in contact with Maitland. Not really. Obviously, she probably had phone numbers or what have you, but like from my gathering, she went on to do her porn career and nobody really wanted anything to do with her, which makes sense as rising Disney stars that they were at that time. You know, they were pretty big Disney stars. To me, it makes sense to potentially want to separate yourself from somebody that could ruin your potential by association your reputation by association of getting onto another Disney show. You know, if Disney's obviously neglecting you, it makes sense. But also, like, she was only on for a couple of seasons. They didn't have the same connection with her, I would only assume, that they had with Angela. I mean, who was also not on for a lot of seasons, but she was on longer than Maitland.
Yeah. And they also had talked about how like really Maitland's character was mostly just with like Will and the Lawrence brother that played Sean's older brother. Like she really wasn't, like she would have some little bits with Topanga and Corey here and there, or with Sean and Corey, but like she wasn't a full integrated member of that cast where like they were having full on scenes with everyone all the time and different things like that. She was her own little section of the show.
Yeah. She was like a roommate or something, right?
Yes. Her and Will and Matthew Lawrence, they were roommates, and then her and the Matthew Lawrence guy dated, but it was also kind of like a Three's Company situation where it's like, which one is she going to pick? Yada, yada.
Yes, I remember now.
But also, like, going back to what you said before about her saying that, like, she wasn't invited onto the Girl Meets World cast. She was invited to be on part of Girl Meets World. However,
she was.
Her complaint is that Danielle basically essentially wasn't up her ass whenever she was a guest star. And Danielle was like, I was literally just trying to survive my time there. I wasn't in a good mood. I was not the same person I was on Boy Meets World. I, you know, was stressed out constantly all the time. So I'm sorry that it wasn't butterflies and rainbows for you. It wasn't for me either.
Do we know if Maitland is in contact with Ben Savage?
She did make a comment that made it seem like she was.
Really?
But, like, not. Yeah, but like not a lot. I mean, there wasn't any like solid proof or evidence.
She also could be lying. She also could be making. Exactly. She also could want to feel better than them in that moment and be like, well, he talks to me still. You know?
Yes. Like one of the things that Danielle was saying was like, it seems like you like to talk to TMZ a lot about us. And like, I just don't understand why, like, if you're using it for like clout, essentially, basically, to like use things that we say on our podcast for you to then talk to TMZ about so that your name stays in, your OnlyFans keeps growing, like whatever. And Maitland was like, said something about how like Topanga's always been jealous of how much attention Maitland has. And Topanga was kind of like, girl.
Topanga? No.
Girl, please.
No.
Topanga was pretty much like, girl, please. And that's kind of what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. No.
But like, I think that Topanga proved her point because what has Maitland been doing ever since the episode aired?
Porn.
Going on and talking to TMZ about how she was ambushed.
Oh, the episode aired. I was like, I thought you were saying since Boy Meets World. I was like, porn. I know what she's been doing.
Essentially, it's just that, you know, Maitland didn't want to handle it like an adult. And so Danielle decided to confront her on the podcast, which is what she asked for. And now Maitland is playing victim for Clout is what it all boils down to. And in the beginning, when I first listened to it, was before Maitland started going out and doing all these interviews, yada, yada, yada. And so in my head, I was like, okay, I kind of see where there's maybe just some miscommunication here. She didn't know how the format of the show was and thought it was going to be resolved a lot sooner. So maybe that's why she didn't want to like talk about it and just said, I'll see you in a couple weeks. We can talk about it then. But then after she starts doing all this on all the interviews and whatnot, I'm like, girl.
So did she just assume it wasn't even going to come up? Because it seems like they all were playing. It seems to me from what you're describing that Maitland is like getting on the show like, okay, I guess I'm just going to be on here business as usual, like business relationship, going to talk about my time on the show, whatever. And then all of a sudden Topanga's like, all right, there's an elephant in the room. Let's take care of it.
Yeah.
And Maitland's like shook. Like, oh, yeah. I forgot we were even going to talk about this.
And like, I mean, I don't know editing wise, like they could have in real life talked about that first and then moved on. But as far as like us as listeners, it happened right at the very end. And so it's like they sat here and talked nicely together for hours. I mean, at the end of the conversation, they were able to like move on from it and still be somewhat cordial to close out the rest of the episode together.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why I'm saying like I don't know editing wise if it was kind of like a marketing ploy for them to put that
probably
towards the end of the episode so people stick around and listen, you know. I have no idea, but it was a very, very quick change from them, you know, reminiscing on all the times together on set and yada 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 to boom, this conversation.
All right, so what were the guys saying? So we know
Not shit. It was mostly just the two women. Like I said, there was a couple times, like Will commented in. Sean, the guy, Ryder, didn't really comment ever at all.
Wow.
It was just the two women going back and forth.
Rare catfight.
Yeah. 100% catfight.
Ooh. Might have to go listen to it.
That's the tea.
Well, in other news, that's actually really interesting though, seriously, because I just felt like there was so much going on. I kept seeing videos and seeing articles and seeing Reddit posts. I'm just like, I can't keep up. Like, and I think the reason I might have been confused is because you're saying that Maitland continued on with doing more interviews about it. So maybe I was getting like different clips from different things and thinking it was all the pod and getting confused. So that makes sense now. So let's hop into our reality show stuff. Let's just dive into it. We have a lot to cover. So we both watched Survivor on Wednesday and we both watched The Traitors on Thursday. Tonight is Love is Blind. So actually this is like a really busy time of the year, especially for like both of us don't watch The Bachelor, but I don't know if you realize this, but The Bachelor is Monday. The Deal or No Deal Island is Tuesday. Wednesday is Survivor. Thursday is Traitors, and Friday is Love is Blind. So there's a lot of people that watch all of those. So that's crazy. And then starting next week, we have The Amazing Race. So we are watching We're watching Survivor on Wednesdays, and we are watching Traitors on Thursday, and we are watching Love is Blind on Friday. And pretty soon next week we will add Love is Blind into the mix. Or no, sorry. Amazing Race into the mix. I'm gonna get there so much. So let's start off talking about Survivor because that was the first thing we watched. Well, actually, I watched Dondi, but I know you don't watch that, so we'll just peruse on past that. Okay, so Survivor. We had the privilege of being able to do a little podcast sit-in on with Abigail and Sarah, and we did a Survivor draft. And normally Sammy is the fourth person on the draft, but Sarah and Abigail and Sammy requested for Nicolette to be like a proxy so that there was no like funny business going on. And
rule follower
Nicolette did a really good job of doing that. So check that podcast out on the Secret Society Super Fans. So you can check that out to see what everybody's draft picks were. But for the most part, we just went through the cast and talked about that there. So I would just direct you there if you want all of that tea. Yeah. Let's just jump into the first episode. So the premiere episode, I personally thought was one of the best premiere episodes of Survivor that I've seen in the new era. it had a lot of
Same.
it had a lot of really good moments. One moment in particular that I know you really liked was Eva, who is an openly autistic individual. She's like 23. Her strategy going into the game was to link herself up with one other player and to tell them about her autism, gain their trust, and just be vulnerable with that person. First of all, that's an amazing strategy. Second of all, the person she picked, chef's kiss. For someone who is neurodivergent and openly admits that she struggles with understanding social cues and maybe not picking up on what everybody's sensing and reading their faces. Yes, she read that room so fucking well. Applause to Eva.
Yes.
So if you don't know, she picked Joe, and Joe is like the firefighter dad. And he literally had a moment where he was like, I don't care if I don't win because of this.
If it costs me the game. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I will stand up for this girl. I stand 10 toes down for Eva at this point moving forward.
Yeah, I watched the episode with my 10-year-old son, and I just remember during that part, like, I was getting teary-eyed. I looked over at him. He was teary-eyed, and he just looked at me, and he said, Mom, they are just so special. They have a really special bond, and I just know that they're going to stick together.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yes, exactly. And yeah,
they are.
I love it.
There's no breaking
so
that
much.
bond. Like, the only thing that would break that bond is unfortunately one of them going home, because
Mm-hmm.
there is no way. And so that's the same way I felt about Mitch going into this. So Mitch was the guy that had the speech impediment, and I just said that he is such a genuinely nice guy. I would probably lose the money before I'd write his name down on the parchment. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could sit well with and I'm a gay, like, I know myself, and I know Nicola, if you and I played a game together, I'm sorry about you.
Out. You're out.
I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck.
If you're in my way, I'm going in the diary room saying, get Reality Alley out of here. Bye,
Bye.
girl. Catch you on TikTok later.
Catch me outside. How about that? Like, I don't care. But when it comes to Mitch, 10 toes down. You couldn't pay me enough to write his name down. Like, there are certain lines that I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna have to take the other side of this line. I'm gonna have to take the nice person side, you know? And Mitch is one of those. So Kevin, okay, so right off the bat, the very first challenge. First of all, why did you have to do them like that, Jeff Probst? It's difficult.
Yeah, it was a rough first challenge.
I was like, what? Like, it was a lot. I hope they were stretching at Ponderosa before this, because like I hope they were doing dynamic stretches, walking on treadmills. Like, I hope they were doing something to prepare themselves, and they weren't just eating and picking out outfits for getting their outfits approved by production. I hope they were doing something, because
they needed to prepare not only mentally for this, but physically as well, because my goodness,
that specifically, like right off the bat, was a lot. Like, having to go underneath that mesh bag thing, through the dirt, like all of that, like
the mud and everything.
That was really difficult. And that is the moment, going through the mud, when we find out that Kevin starts saying like his shoulder's really hurting, and then he kind of gets out of it and he's like, my shoulder's really hurting. Well, what we now know, after the show's aired, Mike Bloom put a message on his Twitter, or a post on his Twitter, saying that, because he was there live in person because he does the interviews, and he said that it was a lot worse than what was in the edit.
What they show.
He said that the doctor had to come over and like pop it back in. Which leads me to believe, like, why would they not? Like, that's a big thing. Like, especially because last season we had a player who passed out, or I don't know if he actually passed out, but he like got very like, it turns out that he just had a lot of high anxiety because it was like his first day. He was super excited. He was super fan. And then also he was playing this super intense challenge, and it all became too much. He almost like kind of had a panic attack, but it kind of seemed like he was having a health moment, but like a physical health moment, but it was actually like a panic attack. And they had a whole edit about that on the first episode. And then somebody throws their whole they dislocated their whole rotator cuff, and you're not even going to put that in the edit?
Yeah, and I saw someone, I don't remember who it was, but someone on TikTok was like, honestly, it makes sense that like they didn't show it in the edit because he wasn't like medically evacuated. But then like talking about something that something else that we want to talk about, that adds a completely additional like element
Yeah.
to that challenge
Mhm.
that him and Kyle do on that other beach.
Yeah, I think it's relevant.
Yeah.
I think it's relevant not only to that, but like, what if in the future, I don't know, obviously it doesn't matter in the future because they didn't add it to the edit, but I don't know. I feel like it's relevant to know that someone severely hurt themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, day one.
But yeah, so we get to the, obviously Kyle's team and Kevin's team both lose, so then they have to go do this like, other little challenge thing where they're like gathering water with a little bucket thing and then like a little pot, and they're pouring it into like a little tiny jug. Right off the bat, Kevin's like, okay, I'm noticing that Kyle's just he's beast mode. He's going too fast, he's doing too much. And Kevin's like, I'm gonna go slow. Easy does it. And it panned out because Kyle went too fast and he accidentally tapped his pot to the glass on the jug, and it just shattered the jug, which means he's out because now he can't fill his jug to its entirety. And this is a moment where I almost cried because I was like, holy fucking shit. I have never seen something like this on a first episode. You don't usually see what I'm about to tell you. You don't usually see this until like people have established relationships. This guy gets mad at himself. Kyle gets mad at himself. And then he goes and he picks up his bucket and he fills it back up with water and he starts helping Kevin. Kevin's like, you don't have to do that. And he was like, I got you. And he just, you can tell he's still mad at himself, but he was like, I don't care. He's like, there's no reason. And Kevin working hard at this point, I'll just help him. Like, there's no reason in him continuing. So,
yeah, but it also just goes to show like innate, like just kindness from Kevin, because there's so many people
from Kyle
that would have, from Kyle, sorry. Because there's so many people that would have just sat there and sulked
for
and
sure,
kind of like gone into their head about the situation. And he took like 2 seconds of doing that and then decided to like be kind. And I think that like, hey, that can help you out in the long run if y'all both make it
right
to where you're on the same side of things.
Right. So that's something else that went through my mind was at first I was like, well, he's making sure he has this guy on his side after the mergatory, but then I was like, no, I think it was actually a genuine moment.
Yeah.
I think it was genuine because then also when Kyle got back to his camp, he had to, you know, let his team know that like he didn't get any supplies, he wasn't able to win anything. And they were all like, you know, we really believe him, like we really believe everything he said. Like you could just tell that they weren't mad at all, like they believed him. And I think it's because he is genuinely a nice dude. So, but speaking of being helpful, let's talk about Eva with the bamboo. So I forgot to mention this before, but she's neurodivergent, and so for her, she needs structure, and she found. I just love this moment, and I love that they kept this edit in there because it just really shows that being neurodivergent can actually be a superpower sometimes, and not necessarily a cripple. You know. And so what she was doing was they were collecting bamboo for building like a shelter or something, and she could have stopped, honestly, but like she just kept going. And she said that in that moment she realized that she needed something to do. She was feeling anxious, so she just decided, I'm just going to keep getting bamboo. And she's like a super strong girl, so it wasn't, you know, she did it, and I feel like it made people really respect her. So
yeah, 100%. And like we said before, like a lot of people don't even realize that was her like stimming or hyper fixating on one thing or whatever, because she's only revealed to Joe,
yes,
you know, that she's neurodivergent. So to the rest of them, they don't even, they just see it as someone that's like beneficial to have on the tribe.
Another person that struggled, I need to back up because I forgot to mention this. Another person that struggled during that first challenge that we saw pretty visibly was Cedric, the surgeon. He was unable, they had to like climb like that little thing to get to the top of the tower, and he like they were trying to pull his ass up and he couldn't get there.
Yeah, no, he did not perform well at all. Are a lot of, because you know I'm jumping back into Survivor and haven't watched in a long time, are they extremely on these like group still like tribal challenges extremely physical all the time, or will there be times for brainiacs only to kind of shine.
It's a mixture. So you're gonna see like hop in the water, swim here, then hop on this area and do this thing, and then hop over here. Like, and at the end, there's always a puzzle.
Always a puzzle at the end, but you got to get to the end to do the puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So brings me to the next point, Stephanie. So let's flash all the way forward to the immunity challenge. Stephanie volunteers right off the bat. Volunteers, I'm going to do the puzzle because only 2 people could do the puzzle and everybody else could watch. In that moment, as a reality TV person, I would be like, yeah, you guys go ahead and do it, because like that puts such a target on you in the event that you don't complete the puzzle. Great if you complete it, that everybody's gonna love you, but if you don't, it's gonna be one of, especially on week 1, it's gonna be one of these 2 girls that didn't finish the puzzle that's gonna be up for almost said eviction. It's gonna be up for being voted out
on the chopping block.
Yeah, to have their torch snuffed. So that was a really stupid moment. We also see a lot of DRs from Stephanie, even like before the pot thing, before the water jug filling up thing. I start seeing a lot of DRs from Stephanie. I actually put in my notes like, we're getting a lot of DRs from her, which was not a good sign to me. But somebody that we saw the most DRs from, I think, was Say.
100% saw the most from Say. Yeah, she came in playing super hard, super quick. I was nervous for her. I'm still nervous for her.
Yeah,
to be completely honest.
Neither Say nor Stephanie were people that I really cared about, so look, the Green Tribe, just in looking at the dynamic of the Green Tribe, I went, they are going to lose a lot of challenges. So I already knew that I shouldn't get too invested in anybody actually, I don't even think anybody on the Green Tribe I put on my draft. Honestly, I think my draft is, and that's like historically the Green Tribe. Nope. I don't think anybody in the new era has ever worn green and won. I don't think ever.
Here's my question. Okay, and so obviously like this, we haven't gotten here yet, but we know that Say has that immunity idol. Is she getting voted off with that leaving in her pocket, or do you think that she's going to use it?
So I was very concerned that she was going to go the first episode with an inner pocket. In fact, I was upset about that. I didn't want her to go with the inner pocket on the first episode. I did not think that would be entertaining. I don't know why. To me, that would not have been an entertaining first episode. You know what I mean? Like I would have been like, oh, that freaking sucks. So spoiler alert, Stephanie goes, Say stays. It was definitely very much Stephanie versus Say, because like you said, Say was hot and heavy. The reason I don't think that she's going to go with it in her pocket, though, not on the next episode, is that she has aligned herself with some of the dudes, and I think that Mary would be the outsider at this point. Usually when somebody has like, you got to think, she not only has her idol, but she also has a shot in the dark. So in order for them to take her out, they would have to completely blindside her, because you don't know what she does, because they use the shot. I don't know if you figured this out yet, but the shot in the dark gets used when they go up to write their name on the write somebody's name on the parchment. And that's why I forget who it was. It might have been Say, was like, she used the shot in the dark. Like, I guess something was moved or something led her to believe that the shot in the dark was played. Because they put it in that little jug thing. And do you know how the shot in the dark works?
I figured it out from there. If it says safe or not safe on the paper when he opens it.
Yeah. So no one knows what they have until they play it. I personally don't like the shot in the dark. I think it's neither here nor there.
I wasn't a fan.
I think it's neither here. So everyone gets it. Everyone has it to start off with.
That's why I don't like it.
So that's why I don't like it. Thank you. Yes. To me, it's like, if everyone has the same advantage, which the argument is, well, they don't. But the argument is that they do, because they all have a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, it's dumb. I don't like it.
And it's not a reliable idol either, you know? It's just let me just hope I stay.
It's a shot in the dark.
It literally is a shot in the dark, and it literally is to me, it makes the game more based on luck rather than playing.
Exactly.
Not just for you who got the shot in the dark, but now the other person that's going to get screwed over because now they went, since you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yep.
Which the shot in the darks expire after so many weeks, but still, I don't know. So yeah, I think that Say's days are numbered, but I think that the Green Tribe will be going after Mary first. I just don't know why they wouldn't, seeing as Say, like, from what I've seen, at least especially in the new era, is more of like letting it play out, because eventually that idol is going to expire. And not everybody knows that she has an idol, but I think everyone knows that she found a clue. And only like Cedric and like one or two others know that she has an actual idol. So it'll only be a matter of time, I'm sure, before everyone knows. But yeah, and I think she needed help. I was like, why is she involving everybody? But I guess she just didn't really know how long she would have to solve it. She didn't know if she would need to use it for the first tribal council. And so like, I get it. I get wanting to get as much help as you can. And she wasn't involving it just everyone. She was involving her core 4 alliance that I don't think is actually named yet. Speaking of alliances, on the other tribe, we have the California Girls, which consists of Thomas, who is on my draft, and I love him, Joe, who we just talked about, the one that Eva confided in, and a guy named Shaheen, who I'm indifferent about.
Yeah. Dead.
Yeah.
I think it is a good alliance, honestly. However, we know that Joe's going to be more aligned with Eva than with this alliance.
Joe was an afterthought. Like, it was literally Shaheen and Thomas being like, you want to involve Joe? And then in the midst of them saying it, Joe's like, walks up, they're like, hey, you want to be an afterthought?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Joe's like, sure, you okay? Like,
yeah. Alliances are just falling in Joe's lap.
Yeah, for sure. Mary calling Kevin the golden retriever of the tribe, loved it. Like, what the heck? But that's pretty much all I think I have down for my notes. Did you have anything else you can think of about? Oh, I do have one more thing, the symbols. So I did like how they are doing the symbols and letters and everything all over the tribe. And I can't wait to figure out if the other 2 tribes, because it doesn't seem like they have figured out what these symbols mean or anything yet at all. It does seem like, who was it? Oh, David, the stunt double guy. David found like a random eagle on a tree and then pointed it out to the guy that he was with. And I was like, David, have you ever played a game before? No, obviously you haven't. But like, have you ever watched one? Oh yeah, you already told us you hadn't.
Decades ago.
Before
they had these clues.
Like, rule number 1, if you see something off, let's not point it out to people that you're not aligned with closely. Like, and you're not aligned with anyone. It's the first week, dude.
Yeah, this isn't a scenario where if you see something, say something. If you see something, you say nothing. Keep your mouth shut.
Zip, zilch, 0.
Get a brain.
He doesn't have one. He can't even buy one if he wanted to. So but I do like, what I was saying is I do like those little symbols. I like that idea of kind of making them work for it, but also it's kind of in the open. You know what I mean? So it's like anybody has a shot. And we did see him start to like kind of piece together what those, there's something off, but they didn't lead themselves to any clues or anything yet. The other tribe, they haven't gotten anywhere. I don't even think they noticed.
The other tribe don't got a clue about the clue.
One person that was going out and looking for a idol was Star, which really worried me because I thought Star was going to be a lot more like Rome, who was a player last season, who just was like worse than Say because he was just he got under people's skin. I thought Star was going to be like that, where she was just like very eccentric and out. If you've seen any of her preseason interviews, you would know what I'm talking about. I thought she was going to be like that. But she wasn't. She was actually like having trouble connecting socially with people, which is going to be a problem for her. And especially the fact that now she's suspiciously looking for idols. Not even suspiciously, wide openly looking for idols. Like, rule number 1, really don't walk away by yourself. Not in the beginning, because people know you're looking for idols, and then they're gonna think that you might have one, even if you don't. So
then you're gonna be a target.
Do you have anything else that you can think of?
No, I don't. Not really. I mean, I agree. It's definitely the best premiere episode of New Era Survivor that I have ever watched, considering it's the only one. So I enjoyed it.
Me too. Okay. Now let's talk about the traitors.
The traitors.
Dun, dun,
the
dun.
Traitors. My goodness. Not even what an episode, because it's not. It wasn't that fantastical of an episode considering how it ended. I am extremely annoyed with the fact that we only got resolution about the murder. I don't know that I'll ever get over the fact that they left us on 2 cliffhangers. I find it extremely, extremely annoying. This is ridiculous. First, we get Brittany, shock of the world to apparently a lot of people, agreeing to be a traitor rather than this far in the game deciding to just go home because she wants to remain a faithful.
Go figure.
Oh, I was probably the most shocking part of the episode for me.
Literally,
to be honest.
I was shook. I dumbfounded.
So, I mean, after she made that shocking decision, then we see them decide who they're going to murder. And finally, we have Sandoval being murdered.
It was
What
about
were your
damn
thoughts?
time. Although I told you this before we filmed, I really thought they should have murdered Gabby. But it was about time we got Tom out. But personally, I think I said this last time on the podcast, I thought they should have murdered Gabby and that they should have targeted Tom, utilizing his behavior during the chess game as a reason to target him.
Yep. We are on the same page.
And they would have already had Dolores' vote. So
yeah, Dolores would have definitely... It would have prevented a lot of the roadblocks that we currently have. So Gabby would have been gone. Dolores would be voting with them. But that kind of moves us on along to Gabby survives the night. And she decides to set her sets very hard on Danielle as a traitor to target at the round table. She does that. She starts that in even before the challenge.
I want to talk about the challenge for a second. Let's back up.
Yeah, I'm just saying that Gabby
before the challenge even started. I see.
Yeah. Before the challenge even starts, she's going around, trying to talk to like Dylan and them about Danielle obviously being a traitor. But yes, now go ahead and take us into the challenge.
So that did have me nervous going into the challenge, but I still wasn't convinced that Danielle was in any real trouble. I still kept thinking, oh, this is just edit. They're just leading us to believe it once again. Which they did that a couple times with us with Phaedra last season too, but eventually around this same time they got her out. So, okay, so the challenge I calculated, so the challenge was like 3 parts. The only thing that I'm unclear on is, okay, so the first part, they had to pop the ball. First of all, I don't know what kind of interpretive dancing they were doing, but Nicolette, I know you used to be a dance instructor. I think they could have used your services.
I 100% agree, because I was sitting here being like, what is this crumping? It was bringing me back to like that Bring It On movie with Hayden Panettiere, with the what in the world kind of crumping was going on in that movie. But that's the vibes I was getting from these clowns.
Not the Hayden Panettiere Bring It On, because that's like one of the worst ones. Actually, no, I lied. Bring It On 2 is the worst. Yeah, it was strange. Yeah, nothing else needs to be said about the dancing. So they had to go up and pop the balloons, and if they got they said something about a skull, and I was like, this was so stupid, because all it did was change colors. Why didn't you just say if it's black or if it's green, whatever? But anyways, so confetti would pop out, and if they got black confetti, it meant that they busted, or basically they what's the term, like bankrupt. Yeah. So they went into $500 increments, and pretty much everybody got their 500 except Gabby. She just right off the bat just got nothing. Dylan right off the bat got nothing. And then pretty much everyone except, well, some people went forward and got another $1,000. Like I think it was Dolores, Brittany,
and Gabby tried to.
And Gabby tried, and then she went bankrupt. So then we move on to the next challenge. So everyone's got either $0, $500, or $1,000. Then they go on to the next challenge, because the idea is like whoever has the biggest amount of money becomes the seer. And also they put all that money together, and it goes into the pot that I don't think the pot I don't think it actually exists.
The prize pot that no matter what will be $250 come next episode.
$250,000.
What did I say?
$250.
Can you imagine?
So it'd be like, was my prize visiting Scotland? Like,
I'm so
did you spend the entire budget on my plane ticket? Like, Okay, so anyway, so what I was confused about, round 2, then they had to pull the dolls, which was hilarious. Some people decided to just like pull once and stop, pull twice and stop. Some people pulled 2 or 3 times, and on the second or third time they went bankrupt. Here's my question. The only person, so most everyone went bankrupt, but like I said, Gabby and Dylan had no money to begin with. Ivor, he's the only one that went in with money and went out with nothing. Does he lose his 500 from the first round?
That's what I was wondering too. I thought it was each round you accumulate some money.
I went back and rewatched, and that still was not clear to me on if he would keep his second round. And then when they got to the when they got to the third round, Ellen says, okay, the people with the highest are Danielle, Danielle, Dolores, and Brittany. He didn't say the amounts, nothing like that. Which either way only has either 500 or nothing going into the third challenge. But I just was unsure if when he went bankrupt on challenge 2, if that affected what he earned on challenge 1, because he's the only one that did that. So
yeah, I think that they still keep it round to each round.
Okay.
Because, if they couldn't, here's where my logic in that is. If they couldn't, like, accumulate different amounts from each round, then you might as well say if you bankrupt, you're out of the game, instead of you're just out for the round.
Yeah, and I feel like Gabby and Dylan are definitely out of the game, because on the third round, so I did calculate it. I went back and rewatched today, and going into round 3, like I said before, Ivor had potentially 500, or let's just put question mark. Dylan nothing, Gabby nothing. Danielle had the most with $2,500, and then Dolores and Brittany were tied with $2,400. So pretty much the 3 people had the most. What's interesting is Danielle was able to pull the doll like 4 or 5 times, and that's how she got up to surpass Brittany and Dolores, despite the fact that Brittany and Dolores went back and did 1,000. They both went back and did the 1,000. Danielle was like playing it safe, which I understand now when I rewatched it why Dylan was like, that's super sus, because of her behavior, especially in the challenge with the riddles, and how she was like not worried about her safety, whereas like now she's like uber worried about her safety. Also, you could definitely still chalk that up to the fact that like it's the end of the game, and like this wasn't just a safety thing. This was like, you could even be like, I'm a faithful, so I want to be the seer. I want to know who potentially is a faithful or I don't know. Anyway, so going to the third challenge, they were only able to earn from their coins $100 for each coin. So there really is just no way. I don't see any possibility of Gabby or Dylan surpassing either 3 of either Brittany, Danielle, or Dolores, because that means they would have to get 24 or 25 coins more than whatever Brittany gets, you know?
I also don't see Ivor with only $500 being able to surpass them.
Same.
The only way he would be able to do that is if they got 0.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and
I don't see that being possible.
I was unable to see how many coins anybody got except for maybe Danielle, and I can't even confirm how many she officially got, but I can say I do know for a fact it was at least 4 more coins.
Okay.
So just based on seeing her, I saw her drop. She was the only one I saw a still shot without it moving. Everyone else, I was just seeing hands hustling and bustling.
So, I mean, based on your research, I think we can confidently say at the very least that we don't have to be concerned about the seer power. Because even if Dolores gets it, I think it's very minimal chances that she uses it on Danielle or Brittany, either one. Just because of how not strategical she is.
I was mostly concerned about Gabby or Dylan, because I was pretty convinced that Dylan would be using the seer power on Gabby, and Gabby would be using it on probably Danielle. But we don't know if Danielle's going to make it, obviously. But I did not want Dylan or Gabby to get the seer power. Dolores, actually, you know what? We can't predict what Dolores would do with the seer power.
It's true.
In fact, Danielle and Brittany both could still be there and be like, girl, like, we need you to go figure out if Ivor you know, well, I guess Ivor wouldn't be there if Danielle and Brittany were still there. We need you to go figure out what about Dylan? What about Dylan?
Yeah.
Actually, it would still be bad because then Dolores would know 100% that Dylan's a faithful and they're not. In any situation, it has to be a traitor. Otherwise, when they get. But the good news is. The good news is, I think there's going to be one more murder. I think, based on my research as well, because moving into so I rewatched episode 2 or season 2, episode 12 or 11, whatever it was, the final episode. Moving into the finale, you had 6 people, and Kate. It was the beginning of that episode was Kate by herself about to murder Sheree. Then they went to their challenges and everything. They did a round table, and they did their talking, whatever they did. They went to a round table. So when they got to that final round table, there were 5 people. So then they went down to 4 at the fire. So we are basically seeing that round table right now at 5. Then I think logically we could guess that Brittany would murder. Okay. So potentially the point of the seer would be to use it at the fire, because that makes sense now, because nobody is going to know when they vote somebody out at the fire whether they are a traitor, whether they're faithful, except for the seer who asked one person.
Yeah, my question about the seer power is because this would be my if Danielle stays and one of Brittany or Danielle gets the seer power, I honestly think they should use it on each other, and then they don't have to reveal what they found out to anyone.
They could just lie.
Exactly.
I think they should use it on each other. I think, let's say Brittany gets it, she should use it on Danielle and then run and tell everybody, oh my gosh, Danielle is faithful, she just told me.
I mean, if they can only use it at the fire, if that's the only next opportunity they have, then it's just you two agreeing to not vote anyone out, knowing that y'all two are the faithful. But because is it announced will the rest of the people know who has the seer power?
Alan didn't say. All he said was, I'm not going to announce until after the round table, but he didn't say if it was a public announcement or a private announcement. Now the conversation is a private conversation.
Right. I know that was
so let's play some devil's advocate. Let's play some scenarios then before we hop off here. So let's say Danielle stays, and Danielle stays. Ivor's now gone. Brittany and Danielle get the seer, which is highly probable, and then they use it on each other. Or the other option, I think, is to use it on Dolores. And then after they do that, what are their options? I think the next murder, it has to be Gabby or Dylan. Preferably Dylan? Gabby? I don't know which one's better.
I think Gabby.
That's a bad, I
think Gabby, because I think there is at least... Okay, with Dylan, as it relates to Danielle, there is a small chance of pulling at the heartstrings.
Okay.
With Gabby, there ain't a chance in hell.
Yeah, because
you have no way.
Because then what you have at the fire would be 2 traitors, and then Dolores, who we can't predict, and Dylan. So, either way, if 2 traitors go to the fire, I don't see how they're not winning. The traitors have the numbers. At least one of them is winning. My guess would be, as long as they continue voting together, they can both win. Because I don't know what happens if they continue going to a tie. I don't know if they have to actually draw rocks or not at the fire. I would hope not. But if they vote together, they have the votes. Even if the other 2 tie, then they just revote again. The best case scenario would be to get them to vote for 2 different people, to get Dylan and Dolores to vote for 2 different people, and then put up green rocks. They decide to exit the game and hope that the last remaining, let's say Dylan's the last remaining, hope that Dylan agrees. If Dylan doesn't agree, fine, you go back.
2 people. Yeah.
And then there's 2 votes against 1.
Yeah. As long as Danielle stays, there's still a path.
So what happens if Danielle doesn't stay? What's our path?
Our path, if Danielle doesn't stay, is, I do think some of the episodes showed us that Brittany has a little bit of a better relationship with Gabby. And so in that case, I actually think that if Brittany is by herself, the smarter murder is Dylan.
Okay.
Because she doesn't have a relationship with Dylan.
Or is the smarter murder Dolores at this point? Because everyone knows Dolores is a faithful.
Not if there's not another round table necessarily, because like if you're needing her to vote for opposite, like if you want to use that same kind of strategy of getting people to vote for like two different people, you know that bitch is going to throw off a hinky vote somewhere, or doesn't have she's going to vote for Ivor.
Yeah, but then the other people but then Brittany and Danielle just taught everyone that all they have to do is vote with Dolores and they can force a tie, or vote with Dolores and they can get what they want done. You know, so even if they weren't thinking it before, they know it now.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that, just because not all these people are.
They're not firing.
I think
no.
Yeah, no, I don't think that. And I also think that there's way less suspicion on Brittany, even though there's
way
less suspicion on Brittany, to where like there might not be as many rounds of voting at the fire, or like wanting to vote or anything with Brittany there by herself.
Here's the thing. If Danielle goes on this episode, Brittany absolutely is winning, in my opinion, because I really have been saying this, but I think it satisfies breaking up the Danielle and Brittany group duo, and it satisfies a Big Brother person being a faithful or being a traitor.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. I think that Brittany has several options to win, but I think they're all still very scary.
I agree. I do think, though, that like if she is by herself, her smartest murder is Dylan, because out of anyone left, it is the one person she does not have a working relationship with.
Right. Valid.
She has, even if it's not super strong, she has small working relationships with everyone else aside from him.
So, you've heard about the hand theory, because we've talked about it. So for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, the hand theory is that on the preview for episode 11, I guess we're getting, there's two hands that we see, and they're like gear shifting a sports car, and there's bracelets. And the theory that I've been seeing is those are Ivor's bracelets. I did my research. Like I said, I went back and rewatched the finale. I didn't watch the whole episode. I just rewatched the round table. Ivor ain't wearing no damn bracelets at the round table. So I didn't go back and rewatch the whole episode. Eventually I probably will, to just suss it out. He was not wearing those bracelets. So I don't know if potentially he was wearing those bracelets on another episode and people remembered it and I just don't. Those were not his bracelets from the snippet that I went back and rewatched. The only person wearing a bracelet was Dylan. He was wearing a different bracelet than what was in that preview. And I thought back, and Dylan often wears bracelets. However, you and I both agree that there were like, those hands looked old.
Liver spots.
There were liver spots on those hands. Those hands had seen better days. To me, but also some people are freckly and stuff like that, but to me it looked like old.
Yeah, I'm pulling.
And then the other hand that we saw was definitely a female hand, and it was a more fair skin, so it was obviously either Brittany or Gabby. I thought it looked like Brittany's hand, but people were arguing with me that they thought it was Gabby. Doesn't really matter either way. So okay, I'm zooming in on this hand. So now that I'm looking at it,
I don't see spots though. Like his hands are kind of like, they're rougher than what I was expecting, but I'm not seeing spots on any of these that I'm zooming in on.
All right. Well, I'm going to be spending my entire week probably going back and looking at Dylan and Ivor's hands on episodes.
Yeah.
Well, just looking for the bracelets, because like, I don't know.
I would be more interested in looking for the spots. The spots aren't going to change like the bracelets are.
Now that I'm looking at it again, I guess I'm like second guessing myself now, because I'm like, what if these are freckles? Because like I just initially looked at it and I was like, liver spots, but now like maybe it actually is freckles. I don't know.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I'm zooming in on Dylan's Instagram photos and I'm not seeing freckles on his hands.
Okay, what's his at?
Dylan Efron.
Dead. Oh my gosh, all the this just popped up, but a bunch of the BB people are together right now. Did you know that? Rubina and Chelsea and
oh yes,
yeah,
that I did know. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So Dylan,
Chelsea.
The friends plus Chelsea. Stop it. I mean, valid. I mean, honestly, it's a toss up to me.
I found one that it looks like it might be some freckles.
Does Ivor have an Instagram?
Fuck, I've never looked that bitch up, so I don't know.
That's what we need to look for. No, okay, if you're listening to this podcast, make sure to go take my poll so we can settle this theory once and for all. Because, yeah. So, but the bracelet theory, I don't know why he would wear bracelets on both hands. I don't know why he would change out his bracelet after wearing the same bracelet week by week by week. Let's look for Ivor.
Ivor's old ass probably doesn't have an Instagram.
Literally, I typed in Ivor and it fucking popped up, bitch. Like,
oh god.
And Brittany's already following him, so I know it's him.
Sick.
Okay, let's keep going. So he's got a bracelet on in this. Okay, go to his Instagram and go down 1, 2, 3 posts and then scroll to the next picture. It's on February 21st. And if you scroll over the picture, he's sitting with Tom Sandoval. And he does have on a bracelet in that picture.
Ivar fucking Mountbatten. I can't stand you.
Ivar fucking Mountbatten.
And he has spots on his hand.
Does he?
Well, zoom in. Do 2 fingers and zoom it in. That's what I was doing to Dylan's pictures too.
So now we're just unsure because you saw spots on Dylan's hand and spots on Ivor's hand.
I don't know. I'm gonna look at it closer for sure.
Yeah.
I'll look at the pictures that you sent me and then I'll zoom in and screenshot and use my detective skills and see what I can come up with here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to we will have to spend some time on this. Group project.
Podcast group project.
Yeah, if you guys could all go take the poll after you do your due diligence and also investigate.
Yeah, so we can all come to a consensus.
Yeah.
And figure out before Thursday.
Reality.
Is Ivar fucking Mountbatten still going to be in this castle, or is he going back to his family's castle?
I personally liked it when you called him the Lord Guy.
I should have just stuck with that.
I mean, I was
gosh.
dead when you did that. Yeah. So reality_Allie on my IG. It's like my most recent post. Go there. There's a poll. So after you do your investigation, we need answers to this poll. We need as many people to put their input in as we can. And don't just go answer willy-nilly. Like, do your research and then answer the question. We want peer review studies. We want receipts. We want
this is a group
DM
project,
me, please,
guys.
as well. DM me.
Group project, and please do your
please and thank you.
Portion of the work. This is not one of those group projects where you can just pass off the buck and expect us to do all the work for you and you still get a part of the grade. That's not how this is going to go down.
Each member of the group has assigned tasks.
Exactly.
My tasks obviously have been going and rewatching the entire episode and taking the screenshots and sending them to Nicolette.
Yes. And now I will be doing additional research. This is
on IG.
Review.
Precisely.
And I potentially will even post a TikTok that will be available by the time this podcast episode is up. So you can also research my TikTok post for additional information.
We will have a control group. We will have a hypothesis. We will have it'll be a full scientific study, okay? And we will post it with our findings on our experiment.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll pin the post so it's easy to find once the
Nicolette's page. It'll be on Nicolette's TikTok.
Bookishtv.nicklin.
There we go. We got
It'll be in the show notes.
We got it.
So everyone, please make sure you participate. If you do not, you can't sit with us at lunch. Sorry, that's the rules.
No, you'll have to eat in the bathroom. You'll have to eat lunch in the bathroom.
Yes, apologies.
Sorry.
To your PB&J.
Okay, well, I think on that note, we should end the podcast today.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you guys for listening in. As always, we went on a little longer than we thought we were going to. So one of these days, actually, I should stop saying it. We're never going to be able to end.
It's not going to happen anymore.
It's always going to take us an hour because, we watch multiple shows. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. This was fun. See you later, Nicolette.
Bye.
Bye.